There are basically two camps of people out there when it comes to budgeting. One of these camps says that budgeting is the cornerstone that will make you rich. The other camp says, clearly, spending less money is not going to make me rich, therefore, why even bother? Now, I'm here to tell you that both of those camps are wrong. Budgeting, spending less money, will absolutely not make you wealthy, but it is imperative that you learn how to do it, because becoming the type of person that budgeting will cause you to be is what will give you the tools to create wealth long term. The reason for this comes down to two very simple facts. Number one, to create wealth, you have to increase your income. But number two, you have to decrease your spending, or at least spend it on the right things. So pillar number one is to create more income. That's absolutely necessary. And that proves that you can't budget your way to being wealthy, because let's say the most you ever make in your life is $16 an hour. You're never going to be able to save your way to $10 million. It's just not mathematically possible, because you still have bills to pay. You still have to be able to afford life. So the more income you have, the more potential you have to be able to build wealth with that income. So pillar number one is obviously you've got to create more income for yourself. Now, sometimes this is learning a better skill so that you can get a better job that earns you more income. Sometimes this is starting a business. Sometimes this also includes investing. Either way, pillar number one, you have to be able to create more income for yourself. This is one of the main reasons that I have this YouTube channel, is to teach people how money works so that you can make more. Also, so you can save more so that in the end you can give more, but ultimately you have to be able to make more money, because you're never going to be able to create a large amount of wealth by just earning a few dollars per hour. You can't save your way or budget your way to that. But pillar number two is keep more money. And this is something that most people disagree with. They say, if I was making, 6 figures a month, then it would be no problem. I'd be able to get rich very quickly. But tell that to all the people who have won the lottery and within 5 years, they're bankrupt. Tell that to all the professional athletes who, as soon as their contract is over, as soon as they're not making money anymore, again, they're bankrupt a few years later. The stories about guys selling their Super Bowl rings in order to pay the bills. Tell that to all the people who get large inheritances and waste it away. So part of it is about how much you make, but the other part of it, that's an essential pillar, is how much you keep. And this is why budgeting actually is essential, because you have to turn yourself into the type of person that can restrain yourself from spending. Now, here's the truth. If you make $40,000 a year and you can stop yourself from spending $10, you have all the self-control you need to be able to stop yourself from spending $1,000 once you're making $150,000 per year. Here's what I mean by that. When I first started off my career, my wife and I together with our son, we made $40,000 in a year. My wife stayed home with my newborn son. I went to work, and after putting away into my 401k and taxes, we brought home, it was just a little bit over $2,000 per month. Now, that is not a lot to live off of. I can't imagine, I actually really can't imagine trying to do that today after, how much inflation there's been over the last few years. But it was very difficult even back then. I remember our rent was like $950 a month. Very, very difficult to have all of your expenses covered by just that small, little over $1,000 per month was left over after rent. Now, we were able to do this successfully because we had spent the year before getting out of debt, putting all of our extra income towards paying off our credit card debt or our student loans. And we had, ate beans and rice and lived in kind of the worst apartment possible and never spent any money. Like literally you had to shop the sales, with the coupons. You had to go to the stores that had the really cheap stuff instead of going to the place with the, the nicer cuts of meat, and literally every single dime made a difference. Now, most people understand that when you're living on a very small amount of money, it's very, very difficult. And even $100 more per month can make a huge difference in your quality of life. And so if you are able to successfully train yourself to budget and restrain yourself from spending $10 here, $100 there, when it would make a significantly large improvement in your life. That will turn you into the type of person that can save any amount of money, because the more you make, the less those extra dollars contribute to a quality of life. This is the law of marginal utility. To somebody in a developing nation that's living on $2 a day, an extra $1 a day would improve their life almost immeasurably. But to somebody earning 100 grand a year, an extra $1 a day would not even be noticeable. So the more money you make, the less those additional units of currency make a difference on your day-to-day life. And so it's more important than ever when you have very little income to save as much as possible, because you're training yourself to do the hardest thing while it's the hardest it's ever going to be. And if you can do that, then you're the type of person that will be able to save $50,000 in a month when you're earning 6 figures, instead of spending it all just as soon as you make it. Here's another example to drive this point home. 2 years ago, I was fat. You can go back and look at all my YouTube videos. I'm 5'11", I weighed 230 pounds. My face was pudgy in 2020. And starting in 2021, I decided to get in shape. I said, no matter what it takes, I'm going to do what is necessary to get down to 180 pounds. Most of that was diet. I went on the carnivore diet. I had a whole video about that. And after a while, I started working out because I wanted to start to gain muscle as well. Now, when I started that first meal where I decided to not eat chips, not eat bread, not eat rice, not eat ice cream afterwards, that made absolutely zero difference to my health, to my weight, to my muscle mass, to how much fat I had. Zero difference. But it was one step that was necessary, because if you never do that first one, you're never going to do that second one, and you're not going to be able to have 6 months in a row of eating exactly what you're supposed to eat if you never do that first meal of eating what you're supposed to eat. So it wasn't that first meal that I did correctly that made me lose all the weight. Far from it, but it was necessary. Just because it wasn't sufficient doesn't mean it wasn't necessary. Ladders are climbed one rung at a time. Now, the truth of the matter is that we are entering into a time, financially speaking, that will probably be one of the hardest periods of history that any of us have lived through. We are entering a period of deglobalization, of political alliances changing, of supply chains changing, where we get our energy from, who are our allies and who are not our allies, who makes the stuff that we need, and how much that stuff costs. We are entering into a period of time that will most likely be more expensive and financially the most difficult any of us have ever seen in our lives. This means that it is more important than it has ever been to get your financial life under control. Do not be a slave to money, make money a slave to you. You must learn how to master this tool so that it does not master you. Right now, things are hard. But my bet is that if you look back on times like right now, in 5 years, 10 years, maybe even 20 years, you're gonna say, man, I had a lot of opportunity to prepare. And if I would have, things would have been a lot easier. So build up your savings, get out of adjustable rate debt, specifically, especially like credit card debt, high interest rate debt. Start learning how to invest, how to analyze a company and see if a company is actually on sale, if it's really a good deal, so that you can sell when people are greedy and buy when others are fearful. You have to learn the fundamentals while things are easy enough to do that, instead of just blowing it all, writing it out, and enjoying the good times, so that you can make it through the hard times. And the reality is, not everybody will do this. And so to the extent that you can get your financial life under control and build more wealth for yourself, the more you will be able to take care of those around you who you are responsible for. The larger the burden, the more meaningful the life. As always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.